Shanks has always had this mysterious purpose around him. About it ad nauseum across my channel, across every single channel. What is Shanks' objectives? Why does he make the decisions he does in terms of pulling up to Marineford at the last second? Then he kind of goes under the radar. He comes outside Wano and does absolutely nothing at all except promote Film Red. He randomly decided to go after the One Piece. It's a lot going on with Shanks, and he's clearly the most important character in the series. I don't think many people would debate that. He has one of the longest reigns of any of the Yonko up there right now. He has a great rivalry with Blackbeard and has been fighting Blackbeard for a really long time, like we saw in the Odin flashback. In that flashback is when we really learn that Shanks is on to Blackbeard and knows a lot about his secrets in terms of how he doesn't sleep, what his devil fruit could be, and what his objectives are, because we even saw as early as pre-chapter 100 Shanks warning Whitebeard about Blackbeard and not letting Ace go fight Blackbeard on his own. And what did that happen? That caused the entire events of Marineford. Unless there's someone on Shanks' crew that has some form of time fruit and he secretly has a fruit this whole time, I think we can assume that Shanks has a lot of intel on a lot of people. But because of those rivalries and a lot of the foreshadowing in the story, you can clearly state, I think confidently, and I think everyone here at least has thought this and thinks it could be true, that Shanks will of course die at some point before the end of the series. A lot of the evidence is within story elements, such as his rivalry with Blackbeard and the fact that there's no way Shanks could be the one to defeat Blackbeard, and one of Blackbeard's main rivalries in the whole story is really between him and Luffy and him and Shanks, and Blackbeard really doesn't have much of a purpose other than typical villain becomes strongest in the world as of what we know right now. And because of how he fought Shanks in the past, he's the one that scarred Shanks, and really Shanks has been worrying about this character for the entirety of the series. Before the series even started, if you count the Odin flashback, it makes a lot of sense that Blackbeard will take out one of the emperors, that being Shanks, because we've seen that all the emperors got replaced. Blackbeard took out Whitebeard, then Luffy took out Big Mom and Kaido, and of course Shanks is still standing. And a lot of the things too, with the fact that Shanks wants to go after the One Piece, which we know Luffy has to get. We know that Shanks is gonna fight Blackbeard at some point. You have to do that fight just based off story and based off the build-up. You have to do that fight, and we also know Luffy has to be the one to defeat Blackbeard. And I don't think Oda is gonna hit Shanks with a fake out death. If he did, I swear to God, that would be the worst decision he made. If he has Shanks get knocked out by Blackbeard and then have Luffy finish him, absolutely not. If Blackbeard is fighting Shanks, it has to be to the death, and if Oda throws us a curveball and it has Shanks defeat Blackbeard, I would much rather that than have Blackbeard and Shanks have a fight that makes no consequence except like power scaling conclusions that yes, Blackbeard is stronger than Shanks, but he didn't kill him. No, I don't think One Piece is that kind of story, and I don't think any of us would be satisfied if Blackbeard versus Shanks isn't to the death. Some of the other things like I was talking about is the fact that when Big Mom and Kaido teamed up, we saw them announce that they're going after the One Piece, and it was in a very similar-esque panel how Shanks declared that he was going after the One Piece. And like I said, with all of these characters going after the One Piece, you can clearly state that Luffy is obviously going to have to be the one to find the One Piece, so how are you going to have all these characters going after it? And Oda doing that is pretty weird because we know that they're not going to get it, but like I was saying in one of my earlier videos, I think he's trying to create a neutral battleground for this zone. And I think that's where we're going to see a lot of the big character deaths. There is 3 people I think could potentially kill Shanks. I just talked about Blackbeard. I think that is the most likely, obviously. The second, there's not any evidence supporting this, mainly just intuition and feeling, is that Dragon could be the one to fight Shanks. And the reason I say this is a lot of what Shanks does, you would think he'd be a part of the Revolutionary Army, except he's not. And we don't know any of Dragon's real objectives. So it's kind of hard to say. It would kind of just be like a really cool thing, but there's not a lot of evidence, obviously. And then the third one, I think is unlikely, but Luffy. And the reason for that is Shanks is a lot more different than he appears. For one, we saw what he did in chapter 1079 to Kid, and that was very against what Luffy is really about in terms of destroying Kid's whole crew. And the way Shanks was acting too is a lot more aggressive, and we've seen this too, especially the big thing surrounding Shanks that everyone talks about as well is the fact of what did he tell the Gorosei and who did he warn them about. Common sense would prevail that it was Blackbeard, but if it was Luffy and he was informing the Gorosei about Luffy's fruit, that would mean that there's definitely a conflict there. But of course, I don't think Luffy has killed anyone in the story thus far. But I really think, though, that Shanks, when he does fight and when his battle is to the death, I do hope it's in an environment, though, where he can just go all out and there's not some form of asterisk on the fight, and that we can definitively say, yes, Shanks just got beat and he died. Some of the other story beats I want to hit on with Shanks is the fact that a lot of the time in Shonen, the master has to die at some point, and that's just typical Shonen. Obviously, it's not the strongest point, but of course, with Shanks, you also have this long history with all these characters, and he really has been holding something in for a long time, and I think he knows what his fate is, and I don't know if he seriously thinks he can get the One Piece, because he knows Roger was waiting for somebody, so why would he say, let's go get the One Piece, and actually expect to get it? Like, I don't think Shanks really thinks he's going to get the One Piece, and I do think that Shanks knows at some point he will die, and there's so many pieces of foreshadowing that would allude to it, and the main one just being that Blackbeard is likely going to be the one to kill Shanks. I mean, this is a fight that we have seen being built up since the beginning, and we saw that Blackbeard even scarred him, and I do think with Blackbeard getting stronger, if they do meet again, he will finish the job. That's all I have for you guys today. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like. I'm really excited for 1083. I'll be coming out soon. We're just getting started. I'll stay consistent, and I'll see you guys in the next video.